Moving quickly forward, the business environment and expectations of customers and the business philosophies themselves in the 21st century, are they moving in some sort of a bottom-up way towards sustainability? Well, that would be very nice. So that's what we mentioned in the last end of the last podcast. We're looking at the 7 revolutions towards sustainability according to John Elkington in terms of market pressure, new values, transparency, technology, partnerships, long-term vision, and triple bottom line. So technology, if it automatically begins to be focused on decarbonization rather than emissions reduction, then maybe nobody has to worry about climate change, that everything will automatically get decarbonized and we will begin to draw down carbon and start to slow down global warming and even turn it around or stop it and so on, right? With the drawing of the new millennium, an ever-growing number of business people joined the debate and began to rethink the place that their companies were occupying and the role they played in society and on planet Earth. In this way, the concept of what constituted a sustainable company continued to develop and be enriched, especially in ethical and social terms. Inwardly, a new corporate culture emerged, one that recognized the people that made up the company and the know-how that they generated, like its human capital, as their main asset, since the competitiveness of the company depended on their company for action and innovation. Outwardly, companies started to recognize themselves as integral parts of the communities where they operated, and as such as jointly responsible for both the welfare and the problems of these societies, as well as being participants in the definition of their values. Out of this emerged the incorporation of the environmental variable into corporate strategy, along with the creation of economic and social value, or in other words, the triple bottom line mentioned earlier. Obviously a very optimistic view, but obviously I have to take a quick reality check with greenwashing or real change. The term greenwash stems from the word whitewash, which means to gloss over or cover up something, and is used pejoratively to describe certain marketing actions that some companies make use of in seeking to somehow compensate for other actions that have soiled their brand image due to the negative impact of these actions on the environment. So companies get bad rap for something they did that is seen by the public and consumers and maybe shareholders as a negative act on the environment. Then the company begins to have some publicity efforts or actions to say no, we are going to correct ourselves. A number of environmentalist organizations have concentrated their efforts on exposing and denouncing greenwashers to the point of actually creating rankings such as America's 10 Worst Greenwashers, which in 2002 was led by the makers of Kraft's post-select cereals for promoting their product as natural when they were in fact packaging laboratory cereals, right? Consumer branding is very big business in terms of the words, the fine tuning of the message, etc. So you can hardly keep up with the corporations. Actions like those of the companies included in this ranking are easily qualified as greenwashing. Others are not so easy. So maybe sometimes we are too keen to name somebody the greenwasher, whereas it may not be. Walmart, the world's largest corporation that we mentioned before, with revenues of $315 billion and more than $11 billion in profits in 2006, I don't know the numbers now, is frequently accused of non-sustainable conduct. In reaction to this, the chain recently launched a line of organic clothing and in the process became the world's largest buyer of organic cotton. Simultaneously, Walmart kicked off its Sustainability 360 plan, which protects annual investments of $500 million with the aim of achieving a level of sustainable products equal to 20% of all products offered by its stores in just 3 years' time. 20% of all products will be sustainable products. Is that a big number? Well, it's again a way to win customers. Whether this is a real change of values or another case of greenwashing, the fact that 100 million people a week are being invited to consume responsible products and more than 60,000 suppliers to manufacture them makes the impact of doing business in this way clearly predictable on a worldwide scale. So this is still coming back to the idea of emissions reductions versus decarbonization. whether incremental changes are okay or we need transformational changes to reach the goals in terms of, being sustainable without worrying about global warming targets and so on. Okay, so these 7 sustainability rules, according to John Elkington: plan for the unexpected. Flexibility in the value chain, in technological platforms, and in labor policies constitutes the new efficiency factor. Find true south. Don't underestimate the importance of the emerging economies. There are regions where development is raging today at a dizzying pace. So he's talking about the global south. Don't wait for the big guys to take the initiative. Today, even the most powerful companies are exposed to scandal and crisis. What is decisive is the capacity to create sustainable value. You don't have to be a big player. Contribute to strengthening the Earth's immune system. Bring intelligence and creativity to the search for solutions to environmental and social crises. Think in terms of opportunities and innovation. Change the focus of environmental and social issues. Consider them major opportunities instead of risks. This is again saying that environmental, societal and government or ESG compliances actually are good for the environment and society, but also for the bottom line when it comes to profits. Surpass yourselves day after day. The challenges are huge and demand a radical change of attitude. Leaders must go out in search of new allies, models and solutions. This again kind of obvious, intuitive and important, and yet if you look at Rishi Sunak of UK, the Prime Minister, saying he's going to dial back on the climate action because the economy simply cannot afford it, and he has some support for this approach as well. So we are always dealing with this 2-step forward, 1-step back dance on sustainability, climate action and so on. Be political. You have to get involved and take positions in conflict. So we are mixing of who's we or you, so you just be aware of where you fit into these things in terms of your actions and your stance and so on and so forth. Just moving quickly to sustainability standards. There are various things like annual sustainability report. I won't read all of these things, but basically we are going to look at we need to look at economic indicators like productivity ratio, wage and benefit level, product value versus environmental impact ratio or eco-efficiency, investment in research, development and innovation, total taxes or contributions to the public administration. So budget tagging in that sense. So this is similar to what we have been discussing in the adaptation course, that development goals and adaptation goals can be very synergistic, and all of those things have to also meet your sustainable development goals, so that these economic indicators are also synergistic with economic development, adaptation and sustainability. Social indicators and environmental indicators. Safety and hygiene in the workplace for social indicators. No gender, ethnic or age discrimination. Level of training among human capital. Satisfaction and turnover ratio. Impact on social development in the community. Capacity to influence stakeholders in the adoption of like values. Environmentally, use of renewable energy sources, use of recyclable materials, no water, air or soil pollution, auditing of processes applied by suppliers and transporters. So this is called scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So you source materials from somewhere and you have your own processing which produces emissions, and then you send it out to consumers through a network, and they have emissions. So you have to worry about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 together, which is what this is saying. Respect for biodiversity, obedience of environmental laws. So many laws exist, but enforcement and compliance always become tricky. So this is a bit short, but let's leave this here and come back to, maybe I'll just read chapter 3. What the hell? The ones that made history, just one example. There are many names the author provides. John Elkington, he mentions a lot. Benchmarks, inspirers and pioneers. I won't read all the names, but just to give obeisance to the author, we'll read this one. As we move into the third millennium, we are embarking on a global cultural revolution. Business, much more than governments or NGOs, will be in the driving seat. Is this an optimistic view? Can we trust the business to do this? Well, if profit and sustainability are synergistic, they will do it. Greenwashing becomes an issue when it is done just for gaining goodwill rather than actually being mindful of sustainability and so on. The father of sustainable development, such is the role that the specialized media attribute to John Elkington, the British sociologist and social psychologist born in 1949, who co-founded the first independent consulting firm devoted to sustainability. Its name, Sustainability. Oh, cute. Okay. This firm, which Elkington himself presided over from 1995 to 2005, has offices in London, Zurich, Washington, D.C. and San Francisco, and counts such big names as Ford, Microsoft, Nike, Shell, and Unilever, as well as other major multinationals worldwide among its clients. Does this guarantee that Elkington is delivering on sustainability, or are the companies using his good name to attach themselves and say, look, we are with John Elkington and we are doing a good job? So this is always tricky that one has to follow up on. Okay, but John Elkington's link to sustainability dates back to his childhood. He was 11 years old when he collected contributions among his classmates to donate to the World Wildlife Fund, and in 1978 he had already joined two colleagues, one of them is Max Nicholson, co-founder of the World Wildlife Fund, in creating a firm called Environmental Data Services. So I won't read all of this, but the Dean of Corporate Social Responsibility, he was dubbed by the Business Week magazine as the Dean of Corporate Social Responsibility for 3 decades. John Elkington is the author and co-author of 40 papers and 17 books that have sold millions of copies around the world. Most noteworthy among them, due to their status as required reading, The Green Consumer Guide of 1998 and Cannibals with Forks in 1997. There are many other names picked by the author, which are obviously very subjective. So maybe I will definitely leave this here and come back and read chapter 4 and move forward. Okay, so as I said, I'm doing a very brief summary of the book, and we'll get into some details in the next 2 books. Okay.